Welcome to GFT, Galactic Figure Talk, a podcast about Star Wars and Star Wars action figure collecting.
Awesome, yeah!
The reason they're 3¼ inches tall is because the first mock-up figures that I made were Fisher-Price Adventure People.
I will freeze your body in carbonite forever, Han Solo! Not so fast!
We finally launched 6-inch when I felt the time was right. We needed a new spark.
We started selling all of the action figures through the fan club, and our most successful was the Cantina Band. That was enormously one of the best-selling items we've ever sold through the fan club.
Whoa! Starspeeder!
I used my nephew as a hand model on the Wampa box. He's the one with the little hand that's in there.
It's Kenner's new Star Wars action figures. Now, welcome your host, Chris B.
Welcome to another episode of GFT, Galactic Figure Talk. My name is Chris B. I'm your host, and this episode is all about D23 and this morning's announcements by Hasbro. So this morning, all the D23 merchandise went live on the Disney Store website, and oh my god, this was not well executed by Disney at all. I think I was 20 minutes or so before it was supposed to go online on their website. I ended up being number 45,000 on the website. On the app, I think I was number 13,000, so there was definitely a lot less people waiting on the app than on the website. But it didn't help me because I missed out on the Starspeeder 3000. It was sold out by the time it was my turn to go shopping on their website. And it's a real shame that they've finally come out with this absolutely amazing vehicle for 3¾ inch figures, and they limit it so drastically to only 3,000 pieces. So very, very sad about this, but you know, it's one of those things that's now on my list of things to hunt for. So maybe it'll take me a few months to pick one up. Maybe it'll take years before I find one that I like and for the right price at that. And we'll see how that goes. But it's definitely one of those items which kind of slipped through my fingers this time around. I wasn't proactive about it, which I could have been, but I thought I'm going to take my chances and see if I can score it on the website. And I almost did. I actually had it in the cart, but it just wouldn't let me check out. I hope, though, that something good is going to come from this. And it would not surprise me if we see this exact same vehicle being re-released again in the parks, maybe without a display stand or something like that. There's different color schemes that they could release based on that, I think, as well. So there's different options, and I think that Disney recognized just how incredibly popular this 3¾ inch vehicle was. And I also hope that Hasbro took a really good look at what they have done here, because the execution of this vehicle is basically flawless. They sat down and they said, what can we do to make the collectors happy? The only thing that people were complaining about is the limited number of only 3,000, but everything else about this vehicle was just executed to perfection. I mean, the LCD screen that they put into this vehicle in the front of the cabin plays the entire old school ride footage. And not only that, but it matches the lighting effects in the cabin, and it syncs to what's happening on screen. I mean, how amazing is that? I mean, talk about attention to detail. That is truly great. And quite honestly, I would say that this vehicle and the way it was executed beats what Hasbro's done with the Razor Crest and what they've done with the Ghost. I know the Razor Crest is amazing. The Ghost will be amazing as well. But again, the way they approached this was executed so well. I mean, there's not 2 figures in there. There are 3 figures in there. They have 1 carded Rex figure, and they include a single one, a loose one as well, so people don't have to rip Captain Rex off of the card. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, I know a lot of people who bought a second Cantina just to get the Tonica sisters so they can have those carded. And here you go. This is how you do it, Hasbro. You know, look at what Disney has done with this vehicle. This will be something that I'm going to be referencing in my Q&As with Hasbro moving forward, because I feel like the execution of this vehicle was exactly the way it should be, I think. Except for the limited availability, right? All right, so let's talk about the announcements from Hasbro this morning. And they came out and they announced a single-boxed Black Series Darth Maul figure. This was not a surprise. I think this leaked months ago because of the artwork that's on the side of the box, maybe. I don't know how it leaked, but it did get out. So there wasn't really a big surprise. I guess to me the surprise is that, again, there is no robe included here with this release. And it is yet again another Darth Maul figure. I think this is the fourth Darth Maul that we're seeing this year. I mean, we've gotten the one in the 3-pack that's a GameStop exclusive. Then we have the one that's currently still in stock on Hasbro Pulse. That was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive with the Starspeeder. Now we have the single box Darth Maul. Plus, we also have a Holocom Darth Maul figure coming as well. So this will be the fourth Darth Maul figure. And it is really weird that every time they release a figure nowadays, I have to go in and just kind of figure out what is different about this one. Oh, is there a different paint application here? Let me grab some images that I took previously and make some comparison images so we can kind of figure out what's new. And I think that is a huge problem for Hasbro, is that constant repacking, re-releasing, not spreading the releases out wide enough. I mean, literally, this is the fourth Darth Maul figure this year for Black Series. So, I don't know. So, you know, I saw it. I was like, yeah, it looks good, but it's boring, right? And it had really nothing to do coming out of D23 either, where we're like on this hype train for Skeleton Crew. And for Andor, they did something. So, we're going to talk about that in a second. But, yeah, I feel like Darth Maul, I don't know, this should have probably been revealed a little earlier in the year, maybe with the other releases, but I don't know. I don't have the magic wand that has all the answers for how they should roll those out. I can only tell you that how I felt about it when I saw it, and it felt off a little. It felt boring, because I feel like I already have 2 or 3 of those on pre-order. And there he is again. They also announced 2 K2SO figures coming out. Not a surprise, really. I mean, Andor Season 2 is around the corner. And K2SO for the Vintage Collection is a straight repack of the one they've done previously. The card back is different. It also has the Andor logo now on it. So there is something, at least that's a little different, but the action figure itself is exactly the same one that they've done for the Rogue One release on the Rogue One card. And the last figure which they showed this morning is also another K2SO figure, which again is a repack of the figure that came out in 2021. Actually, I think it came out when Rogue One came out originally already, but they repackaged it in the Mural line, and now, you know, the figure is back again in Andor packaging. I can't blame them for doing that. I think that K2SO needs to be in the Andor packaging simply for the mural itself. But knowing that I purchased the original release, I also purchased the one that had the eye colors wrong. Because if you remember, there's a variation. The first one had the white eyes, then they repainted the eyes with a red dot. So I tracked both of those down at the time they came out. Then they re-released this figure again in 2021, and now in 2024. This will be, for me personally, this is the 4th release, really, right? So again, I'm looking at Maul, kind of boring. Looking K2SO, I'm like, yeah, I already have some of those. And I'm looking at the TVC figure, I'm like, yeah, I already have this guy as well. So in that regards, this morning's reveals felt extremely lackluster, and I wish they would have come out with a figure from the Skeleton Crew, right? I mean, that's really where Disney wants to put the focus next, and it would have been the perfect timing to reveal some of those figures from the show, right? But yeah, didn't happen. So anyways, those were all the reveals from this morning. Like always, if you guys haven't seen what these figures look like, go to galacticfigures.com. There's a link in the podcast description. You can just tap and it'll take you to the article where the press images are and all the links where you can pre-order those action figures as well. Now, in other Star Wars action figure news, Hasbro Pulse has begun to charge people for their Jabba Palace figures. So for the vintage collection, that's Jabba the Hutt that comes with 8D8 and Salacious Crumb. So those figures are now shipping. And also the Black Series Hammerhead is also shipping from Hasbro Pulse. So if you pre-order through Hasbro Pulse, you should be getting a shipping notification within the coming days or probably hours. As far as store reports go, the only two figures that I found on store shelves while going on a toy run was the Darth Maul from the Epic Heroes series. That's the 5 POA figure that comes with a double-bladed lightsaber and a lightsaber attachment. It's very action-oriented with the accessories, but it is, of course, 5 POA, limited articulation. But that figure is out there now together with the Moff Gideon in the Dark Trooper armor or in Beskar armor. And I've been able to take pictures of both of those. They're up now on galacticfigures.com if you want to check those out and learn more about those. Then I stopped by a GameStop store and I was surprised how well stocked they were. They had all the vintage collection figures from the Darth Vader, Princess Leia wave. You know, the Luke X-Wing is in that wave as well, and R2. So they had those figures on store shelf. They also had the vintage collection Captain Enoch Troop Builder set. They had the vintage collection AT-ST Raider. So the selection there was pretty good. And they also had the latest wave of Acolyte Black Series figures. So if you're missing any of those figures or you're planning on picking some of those up, I think GameStop is a good place to stop by and take a look at. And that's everything that I have on my list for Star Wars action figure news. So let's talk about D23 next. So D23 happened over the weekend. Friday was the big entertainment panel. Lucasfilm also had a separate panel about animation. They had the Legends ceremony on Sunday where they inducted Harrison Ford, Frank Oz, who of course voiced and played Yoda, and John Williams as well. So those three became official Disney Legends. And then on Saturday they also had the park panel where they talked about Disney Park expansions. So it was an interesting event. It only takes place every 2 years. So this was the big event, and they came out, and the entire show looked like it was amazing. I mean, if Disney knows one thing, it is how to put on a show. And they had so many actors and movie stars on stage and lots of musical acts, and the show looked absolutely amazing. They had David Blaine come out and do this magic card trick with like the 12,000 people or how many thousand people were in attendance there. Again, it was an amazing show overall. But when it comes to Star Wars, I couldn't help but feel utterly underwhelmed. We got the Skeleton Crew trailer, which we all expected to see there. We got a little bit behind the scenes news from Andor Season 2. And then we also got a little sneak peek about the upcoming Mando and Grogu movie. Let me just start with the Mando and the Grogu movie. I thought that the footage that they showed, I mean, I was pretty hyped, honestly. Like when I saw it for the first few times, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. But then, you know, after a few days, it just kind of sunk in, and I felt that the footage, when you really take a close look at the footage, it looked really, really cheap. I mean, it looked like it was made for TV. Literally. The snowtroopers, they look like cosplayers. Literally. And then we're back on Hoth again. You know, I mean, I loved what they did in the Book of Boba Fett when we went back to Jabba's palace and kind of expanded on that. But I don't need to go back to every single original trilogy scene that was memorable just to get more footage. I don't know. I hope they'll make some changes. But it was also weird because they came out and they clearly said that they just started shooting and they kind of had to come out because it was the last D23 before the movie comes out. And remember, the movie comes out in May of 2026, and D23 is only every 2 years. So, yeah, this was basically the only time where they could talk about this project to the Disney fans, basically. Yeah, I mean, they just weren't ready, right? And then for Andor Season 2, they really didn't give a whole lot away. I mean, they talked about K2SO being back. That's not a surprise. I think they said that director Krennic will be back, which is great. I love seeing him. But they really didn't give a whole lot of stuff away about Andor at all. I think the big focus for this show was on Skeleton Crew. And I have to say, like, I'm not a fan of putting Earth into Star Wars. I'm just not. Seeing just a regular neighborhood with just a hammerhead thrown in there, I honestly thought this was like the worst I've ever seen when it comes to Star Wars. It just felt so wrong. I was not feeling that. Everything else, though, looked really good. I like the bicycle, speeder bikes that they ride. I like the kids. I like what it looks like. It looked really, really good. It looked like the production value is pretty high, which it should be for a Star Wars TV show. But yeah, I was just not a fan of suburbia in Star Wars. I'm just not feeling that. Lots of Captain EO references, of course, which we kind of knew by looking at the little Max Rebo guy, right? I mean, kind of got a feeling that there might be more involved here. And I loved Captain EO when that came out. And when I worked at Disney, I got to see Captain EO quite a few times because they re-released it during my time at Disney World. And so I would just go over to the theater when I ever had the opportunity to do so. And so, yeah, I'm a big Captain EO fan, and I really like that there are some tributes in Skeleton Crew to that show. It felt very 80s, and I'm excited about the Skeleton Crew, just not really want to have Earth in the Star Wars universe. It just felt too much like it's around the corner from where I'm living. So, all right. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about all the stuff that wasn't shown. And I feel like overall, the D23 Star Wars presentation for Star Wars was really lackluster. Kathleen Kennedy didn't come out on stage, which I also thought was telling. There was no update about the Lando TV show, right? Everything, I mean, they announced the Lando show, and ever since then, it's just a constant, this guy is off the show, now they're not doing a movie, now they're doing a TV show. This would have been a really good opportunity to come out and say, hey, there were some changes, and this is what we're working on right now, and those are our plans. But there was nothing like that. There was no news about the Rey movie at all. They didn't talk about it at all. I mean, they already announced that Rey is going to be back. We know the time period. We have a director attached to this project. Give us an update. It's been a while. The same thing goes for the origins of the Jedi movie, right? I mean, we have a director that goes with the movie. We know the time period for the movie. Give us an update. Even if it's just a few concept sketches, but do something, right? And that's my gripe with the whole D23 presentation for Star Wars. It just felt extremely lackluster. I think it's also safe to assume that a second season for The Acolyte is not going to happen anymore. Otherwise, I think this would have been the opportunity to probably announce it. For anybody who's been hoping for a second season of the Book of Boba Fett, like myself, I guess that's also not happening. That's just really far in the rear mirror at this point, right? Kenobi, there's, people who want to see a second season of that, including Ewan McGregor himself, who's out there talking about wanting to do a second season, but again, crickets. So again, in that regards, D23, there wasn't really a whole lot. For animation, there was nothing new announced. There's no, Bad Batch spin-off. There was a Luke Skywalker animated show that was rumored for a while, but there was nothing. More Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Empire, maybe a Tales of the Bounty Hunters animated show, but there was absolutely nothing. It was just crickets. Maybe it has something to do with Star Wars having its own convention with Star Wars Celebration. Maybe that's what they're saving it for. But this really would have been the stage to at least give us an update about what it is that you're working on. And I feel like they truly failed. It's also the confidence that's lacking, I feel like. I mean, the show starts and they come out with James Cameron and he's talking about Avatar. And you instantly get the feeling that they know exactly what it is that they're doing, what they're working on. They have a goal over several years into the future. And you just feel like they are fully in control of what they're doing. They have a release date now. It all feels like it's the way it's supposed to be. With Star Wars, it feels it's complete chaos. That's how I feel when it comes to Star Wars. So, and that's where I'm going to leave that. So, I think, again, the Skeleton Crew looked good, although I wish it wasn't Earth at the beginning of the show. Andor Season 2 next year for 2025, but we didn't really get to see a whole lot. And then Mando and Grogu, that's, by the way, that's the name of the title. Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and Grogu. Is that really just for the mainstream? I don't know. I don't think that's a good title, but it is what it is. And again, the footage looked very, very early. I mean, the footage really did not look that great. Go back and watch it again on YouTube. Look at how he's running through those corridors at the beginning of the footage. And it's just not quite there yet. So hopefully they'll fix that. And I guess it's a movie for the big screen, so they will have to have top-notch special effects for that, right? So fingers crossed. So, and that's where I'm going to leave this episode of GFT Galactic Figure Talk. I'll be back with more Star Wars action figure news as soon as something gets announced. And, we're, December 3rd? We have August, September, October, November. We still have 4 months roughly to go before we get Skeleton Crew. So there's still a lot of opportunity to announce figures. And of course, Hasbro PulseCon is coming up in September. So maybe we'll see a few more announcements leading up to that. But I would imagine that the big announcements are going to be coming out for Hasbro PulseCon this year. All right, again, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for listening. For all other Star Wars action figure news, check the links in the podcast description. Go to galacticfigures.com. and stay up to date. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.
It's a wrap for this episode, but the next one is just around the corner, so make sure to subscribe. Meanwhile, have fun browsing over 4,000 Star Wars figures on galacticfigures.com, the Star Wars action figure database. The website helps you look up and identify Star Wars figures. Leave your own figure reviews in the comments, or check out photo galleries, figure info, news, press releases, or event coverage from New York Toy Fair and Star Wars celebrations. Thanks for listening. Check the links in the description, and remember to subscribe.